Hey, I'm Jon Thelen. Today on Fish Head, we're going to get a bunch of walleyes that are sitting right on top of this reef right over here. We're going to cast cranks at them, and that's going to be a lot of fun because these fish are going to be super aggressive. We got a perfect day for it. Stay right where you're at. Fish Head's coming up. There's one. It feels like a decent fish, and it feels like a walleye. Oh yeah, it is. Look at that. I thought it was a pike. It was just strange the way that was coming in. I guess he's not as big as I thought either, but you know what? Good way to start our day. We're out here doing a little something different here. What I'm doing is there's a reef out here and I'm just casting cranks over it. And I really like casting cranks when I can. And let me tell you why. Most of the time when a fish bites on a crankbait coming by, they stay hooked up. And I mean, that guy, he got hooked good. I'm going to throw him back because we're going to catch plenty of fish today. But one of the things that's really neat is most of the time people think of a situation like this and they think of pitching a jig. They think of doing something really, really slow. They think of just working it back and methodically picking something like this apart. But I really like doing what we're doing for a couple reasons. One, it covers a lot of ground. And two, it's easy fishing. I mean, I'm trucking right along. I'm going 0.9 miles an hour and I'm just casting this thing. And up here, it's real shallow. I'm actually ticking along in the rocks, and these walleyes are just laying up in there. They'll go up in there and feed, then they'll slide back down off the edges. But this is one of the most effective ways to get them because it's something really fast coming past them, and I can cast far enough that I can stay away from them a little bit. I don't got to get so tight up in there that I spook those fish. So all said and done, pitching a crankbait over a spot like this is just deadly. There's one, right there. Isn't that funny? Sometimes just a little change like what I just made, which way do you want to go here, buddy, will make a huge difference. All I did is I turned and I cast off the other side of the boat there. And I did it just because I've been banging around up on these rocks and I hadn't gotten anything for a little while. Oh yeah, it's a great eye right there. That's the perfect fish right there. But all I did is just turn around and I threw off the other side. And part of that is because where I'm fishing right here, I mean, it's really shallow right up here. But out here, there's still some scattered boulder as it comes up. And this fish, he was just out off the edge. Look at how this fish ate that crankbait. Let me get him up and out of the net and show this to you. This is why I like fishing crankbaits on rocks. Look at that. That whole crankbait is down his mouth. And he's just aggressive. That's the neat thing about this, is these fish, when they're up on top of a reef like they are right now, or just off the edges like this guy was, and he's still in that scattered boulder, they're so aggressive. So when you go in there with a tactic like what we're fishing today, and you throw a crankbait, instead of just kind of bouncing along real slow with the jig, you go in there with a crank like this, and what you're doing is you're triggering a fish like this. He's looking for something aggressive because he's up there to eat. When you're on shallow reefs, you have to understand that these fish, they don't live up on that shallow reef all day long. He comes up here to eat, and he's looking for something to eat, and as soon as he finds it, he'll grab it. That's a great walleye right there. That's an awesome fish. That's just a great fish right there. But one of the things I do too that makes a big, big difference is when you're looking at choices of baits, here's what I look at. Number one is how deep is the top of that reef. I'm gonna wanna be sure that I can bang bottom. And when you watch me reel in, you can see my rod tips doing this. Every time I cast over the top of that reef and bring it back, once I get to the top, it's banging and it's grabbing their attention. It's bringing them in from a distance. The other thing is, if you listen, you can hear we got a rattle in this crank. I really believe in rattles when I'm fishing for aggressive fish up there because he's cruising. He's not just sitting there. You know, later in the year, we might catch fish out in the basin that are just sitting there. And a crankbait comes by and they'll chase it down. But up here, these fish are constantly moving because they're up here to eat. So when you got that situation, you want to fish something, some type of lure that's really going to bring them in and make them attack. This is the Walleye Demon, and this thing's just ideal for what we're doing here. I mean, I can bang this thing along the bottom. It's tough. I mean, I'm not busting up any lips. It's a strong lure, and it's doing everything I need it to do. It's making noise. It's got a great swimming action, and today I'm using the Emerald Shiner pattern, and it's got a lot of flash, and it's catching their attention. Nice out here now. This is more like what they called for today. When you're picking a crank to cast, it's a little bit different than picking one out of the box to go troll with. One of the things I'm looking for in a crank that I'm going to cast is usually I like rattles. Part of the reason I like rattles is I'm trying to draw attention really, really quick when I'm casting out over a structure. But the other thing is, those rattles add weight, and that weight transfers a little bit inside that lure. So when you look at this Walleye Demon, even in today's wind, I'm able to cast this thing quite a ways. Now, if I was trying to cast a lighter lure or something without rattles, what you'll find is you just can't get the distance out of it. And when you're trying to cast all the way out across a reef, you really want something that you can fire out there. And I mean, this Walleye Demon, I mean, I can rip this thing even in the wind. When I'm casting cranks, I really like to use a super line. And the reason I do is because I can gain just a little extra bit of depth. But the other reason is that lure will get down so quickly when I put that first few initial cranks on it, because that super line has no buoyancy. I mean, it's just gonna drop. It's gonna go right to where that dive curve of the lure is gonna take it. So I know I can get down there fast, and I can get a couple extra feet when I'm trolling or when I'm casting. I might only get an extra 6 inches, but that 6 inches might make a huge, huge difference getting down into those rocks or getting down to where the fish are hanging out. There he is. Got it. Fish came up, hit it. And I would like to say he missed it and hit it again, but I think he just swam toward me. Oh yeah, another good eye. I think he was just swimming toward me, and he ended up on that back hook, so I think he slashed at it and just missed it, and then come railing back in and hit it again. I'm not really sure. I mean, he was barely hooked. Look at that. Got himself unhooked for us. Another great eater fish, I'll tell you what. This is one of the funnest tactics that you can do. I mean, you look around now, the skies have changed. Now it's bright. I'm still catching these fish up on top of this thing. And I'll tell you why. These fish are up here and they're active. And when fish are active, you can get them with a crankbait. And you know, as much as I like driving in and throwing a slip bobber, and you know I like slip bobber fishing, it's one of the ways I grew up fishing. Ultimately though, even back when I was tournament fishing, we would pull up with those slip bobbers, and the first thing we would do is fan cast a reef, because here's what you do. You catch all of the active ones, and we'd find out that there's days we'd never put the crankbait rods down, we'd just sit and catch them all day, and you can do the same thing. This is some fun fishing. Get out and try it.